Good morning.
Good morning. Shana Tova. Good Yontif to those who prefer Good Yontif. It happens to be Shabbat, so if you wanted to say Shabbat Shalom, I guess that would be okay, although it feels inappropriate on Yom Kippur a little bit, I guess. Welcome to our Yom Kippur Day service for 2024. For those who are new and don't know me, I'm Jeremy Kreidel. I've been Machar's rabbi since 2017, and I'm glad that you've been able to join us this year. If you're new, welcome. I hope I get a chance to meet you, even if it's only briefly. If you've been with us before, welcome back. I'd like to talk to you too. Everybody's okay. I'm just saying. I know that some of us are more or less comfortable with being in a big room like this, and so we're being joined by returning and new participants at home via the internet, as well as in person here at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Kensington, Maryland. If you are in the room with us today, there are restrooms on this floor and the floor below. Anybody can use whichever restroom they are comfortable with. For those who want a urinal, the ones that have urinals have a sign, little icon that looks like a urinal. It'll look different from the other signs. Go to whichever place you are ready to go. And make no further deal about it than that. As well, if you are in the room today, please point at the exit sign. Okay, so Gary pointed that way, and he's correct, there's an exit that way. There's also an exit, that is your closest exit. You should be aware that that exit has steps, and so if you are not able to traverse steps easily, you're going to want to go out that way or through the kitchen. There are some other options. We don't anticipate anything happening, but fires happen, things happen, and if you don't know where the exit is, you don't know where the exit is. For those who have been with us before, you've likely noticed that the chairs look a little different. If you kind of were not here last week or last night, the chairs, I make people look at each other this year. If you were with us, you probably hoped that the chairs were back into the regular rows so that you could just look at the back of the person's head in front of you and not have to acknowledge the other people in the community. There is no such luck for you today. There's a difference between a congregation and a community, and it's really hard to have a community if we're not looking at each other. I'll be joined by a number of readers, our choir, and a Baal Tekiah, a shofar blower, and we'll have a talk on this year's theme, Why Am I Here? Why Are We Here? And there's much else besides to talk about. Before we go too much further, a note about our books. The books you have, if you're in person with us today, have a section toward the back that we've named a hymnal section. Many, though not all of the songs today are in that section. The songs have numbers in front of their names. That's how we're going to call them out and not try to pretend we can do page numbers like this. It sounds more confusing than it is. It'll work out, I promise. I know it's easy to sit for a long while in a particular place and be distracted. There will not be lightning that comes through a window or door to strike you if you need a break or become distracted or find yourself thinking about something that just doesn't seem very related to atonement. That's okay. Your mind probably needs to go there. I'll be calling out page numbers so that you can find your way back when you're ready. It's okay to be distracted. There are a lot of things that connect Judaism to guilt. Whether you can maintain laser focus on a sheet of paper shouldn't really be one of those things. We have much better things to make you guilty for today. However, to the extent that me suggesting something means no one wants a disapproving glance from the bima, please turn the ringer off on your phones, tablets, smartwatches. You could even do something like, Apple users, I'm sorry, a little bit. You could even say to Siri, hey Siri, turn off all my alarms. and Siri will turn off your alarms. You're going to have to turn them back on yourself. Many volunteers have helped make the High Holiday services possible, and we'll be thanking them later today, but for the moment, remember, none of this is possible without their efforts and without you being here. Before we turn to our service in earnest, we have this new seating arrangement on purpose so that maybe you can see some people's faces. Take a moment to introduce yourself to the people around you. You will notice that we handed you a colored zone card so that you don't necessarily as easily slip into sitting next to the same people every time. So go ahead and introduce yourself to people around you. Get to know each other.
Help when you do your hand clapping trick.
Thank you, everyone. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. We're going to get going. As we begin our service today, I'd like to invite up our first reader, Josh Rogan. We really should have like game show music when we do these transitions, I feel like. We are on the top of page 1. Our congregation is more than a congregation. It is more than a collection of people. It is a community of friends, an alliance of believers.
We are engaged in shared work. We are moved by shared ideals. There is solidarity of purpose, a unity of goals. When we celebrate together, and when we need support, we support each other.
Our congregation is more than an institution. It is more than a casual assumption. It is a family of choice, a fellowship of like-minded people. Our bonds are more than convenience and tradition.
We have chosen to be here because we need to be here, because standing alone is never as inspiring as standing together.
The Day of Atonement is a time when we seek to feel at one with all the sources of our being, with the living world of nature as the splendid days of autumn emerge out of the lush abundance of summer, with ourselves in our search for the integrity of belief and action, mind and body, with family and friends whose encouragement strengthens our resolve. Above all, on this special day, we strive to feel at one with a living people whose unique experience gives us a rich identity.
Most of us do not choose to be Jewish. We discover our Jewishness in countless ways as we learn about self and family. For some of us, being Jewish is a minor enterprise, subordinate to larger concerns. For many of us, Jewishness is a central commitment, demanding a major allocation of energy and time.
All of us come together to celebrate our kinship. We belong to an ancient family whose story still unfolds in lands we shall never see and in our own homes and lives. At this moment, distance and time collapse. We are at one with our people. And our choir will lead us in the middle of page 2 with Havenu Shalom Aleichem, which is number 1 in the hymnal section of your book. Just flip to the hymnal tab. You'll see number 1 right next to it. That's the one to use.
No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manner of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee.
When we come together, those deeply rooted in the Jewish story and those who have just begun to walk along this path, those who worried that they may not be welcomed because everyone already knew almost everyone else, because old Hertz told them that these Jews would ignore them too.
We are in this place, forming this community today, and these exact people will never be together again.
Someone will be missing. Someone is already walking in late. Some of us won't be able to join this group this time next year. So come be here now. Stand in unity with the new member on your left and your old best friend on your right, with your children in front of you and your great-great-grandparents behind you.
Come with all your hopes and your dreams and your wishes and your disappointments and your fears and your losses, and let us hold hands and share in the project of living.
Come in unity, because we are all facets and prisms of humanity. Look at this day, for it is life, the very life of life.
In its brief course lie all the realities and verities of existence, the bliss of growth, the splendor of action, the glory of power. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision.
But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. And our choir will lead us in Sadiq Hatamar, which is number 17 in your hymnal section. If you're familiar with more traditional approaches to Yom Kippur services, you might remember that the shofar is not typically blown on Yom Kippur Day. It is often blown at the very end of Yom Kippur during what is called the Nila service, an additional late afternoon service that marks the end of the holiday, that gets its name from the idea that the gates of repentance that open on Rosh Hashanah are closing, and the shofar's blast can keep the gates open just a little bit longer. So why are we blowing the shofar this morning? One of the core ideas of humanistic Judaism is that we make decisions based on human needs, and not everyone can make it to Rosh Hashanah services. For many people, the high holidays are not the high holidays without hearing the shofar, and so we blow the shofar on Yom Kippur so that the greatest number of people can hear the shofar each year. The shofar sounds our wake-up call. We awake ourselves to change through those familiar sounds. Our choir will sing Tikuba Shofar as our Baal Tekiyah, Dan Tabachman, comes up for our shofar blasts.
Ashmi'u
Tekiah.
The first crisp sound opens our eyes and brings our focus to the task of opening ourselves to this day.
Shevarim.
3 shorter wails now, announcing that the wheels will continue to turn as we turn and return on this Yom Kippur day. Each call urging us, listen, pay attention, be inspired.
Teruah.
Nine short staccato blasts this time. We are crying together for all the pain that we have seen in the last year, the loss we have felt in our own lives, and the loss we see in the world around us. It's the cry of disbelief and the commitment to heal ourselves and work again for Tikkun Olam, for repairing our broken world.
Tekiah. Shevarim. Teruah. Tekiah. We're on the top of page 5 at a humanistic Shema. Shema Yisrael, Echad Ameinu, Adam Echad. We join together on the middle of page 5 for our humanistic Amidah, our standing meditation. Together we rise. Omdim anachnu biyachad, we stand here together. Yet each of us is alone in our thoughts and in our wishes and hopes. We stand as the tree trunk with our deep roots in the ground.
Those who came before us and influenced us on our spiritual paths, the different roots that brought us to this physical place.
Our parents, our adoptive parents, our chosen parents, and our mentors. We stretch out from our trunks into branches of influence on the world. Our children, our works, our influence on others.
Who have we lifted up? Who are we giving to? Who will remember us as their roots as they seek to create their own trunks on the great banyan tree of human existence?
Stand for the meaning that you wish to make of this world and stand for the work that it takes to bring that vision into reality every day.
Take this moment to be grateful for the place you hold on the infinite chain of existence into the ever-regressing past and the infinite possibility of tomorrow. Becoming that instance in the span of infinity will bring you to a deeper inner peace that you can radiate back into the world.
Radiate the hope that every person in this room, that every person honoring this Yom Kippur day, and everyone whose lives are touched by those, honor the tradition of finding that compass of true north and seeking to begin the year anew and fresh, that they will all become Rodfei Shalom, those who seek to chase after peace. And perhaps one day we will all be able to stand together, even if just for a moment, in fulfillment of that constant dream, peace, shalom. You may be seated. Thank you, Josh, for serving as our first reader today. I'd like to invite up our second reader, Logan Elliott, as we begin the section titled Committed to Peace on page 6.
If there is to be peace in the world,
There must be peace in the nations.
if there is to be peace in the nations,
There must be peace in the cities.
if there is to be peace in the cities,
There must be peace between neighbors.
if there is to be peace between neighbors,
There must be peace in the home.
if there is to be peace in the home,
There must be peace in the heart. You will have noticed, perhaps, that some of the music has changed from what you see printed in the book. In particular, those of you who are accustomed to hearing some modern Israeli music during our high holidays may be slightly disappointed to find less of it. This song, however, is an exception to that this year, and so the choir will lead us in singing Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, Jerusalem of Gold, which is number 20 in the hymnal section.
The olive trees that stand in silence upon the hills of time, to hear the voices of the city as bells of evening chime. The shofar sounding from the temple to call the world to care. The shepherd pauses in the valley and peace is everywhere. Yerushalayim shel zahav, v'shel nechoshet v'shalom, alo lechoshiroi ani kino. Yerushalayim shel zahav, v'shel nechoshet v'shalom, alo lechoshiroi ani kino.
We seek peace. It is the most precious gift we can bestow upon ourselves. May we find the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. May our country always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes.
May we strengthen bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of humanity permeate every home and every heart.
May we labor for righteousness, and in so doing, author a new book of life, blessing, and peace. For we alone are the source of peace. Peace is more than an ideal. It's an achievement. There is no divine power that will give it to us for nothing. There are no laws of history that will guarantee its arrival.
Peace is hard work. The forces of war and violence are very strong in our world. They hide in the deep unconsciousness of our mind. They attach themselves to personal greed. They find a friend in the lust for power.
Too often, our mouth prefers peace, but our behavior prefers war. We praise love and harmony, but we indulge hate and hostility. We endorse kindness, but we subsidize cruelty. We have worked for peace in the same way that we work for a living. In the age of nuclear destruction, it may be even more important.
If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of the mouse, and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality.
We are on the middle of page 8, and our choir will lead us in singing Sachaki, which is number 22 in your hymnal section.
Saki, saki, ha-ha-lo-mo, suhani, ha-ho-em-sa.
Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still.
For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness.
Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands.
Those who prepared green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing.
What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves, of threatening ourselves with death.
Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead in winter and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count to 12.
Our misdeeds constitute a veritable alphabet of unethical behaviors.
The offense of arrogance, bigotry, and cynicism, of deceit and egotism, flattery and greed, or haughty, pursued injustice, and indulged our jealousy. Some of us kept grudges, were liars, malicious, or narrow-minded. Others were obstinate or possessive, quarrelsome, rancorous, or selfish.
There was thoughtlessness, unkindness, violence, weakness of will, xenophobia.
Temptation, or zealous for questionable ends. Why are you here today? People who were here last night got that question last night. It's a different thing. If you were here last night, you don't have to answer again. Why are you here today? Are you here for these confessionals? Why do we say them? We know why these kinds of things are in the traditional Machzor, the traditional prayer book for the high holidays. But we aren't here to admit fault and beg for divine forgiveness, so why do we do this? Is there communal value in this? Self-improvement value? Last night at our Kol Nidre service, one of our members said that he was here because reflection and self-improvement is important, and were he not here, he might not be doing this at all. The high holidays give an opportunity to do that in a fixed way at a fixed time. Is that why you're here? Maybe you're here because the high holidays mark both the depths and the heights of our moral selves. Your reason is your own, and it's a good one. But as we move through our service, ask and answer for yourself. Why am I here? Why is this something that matters to me? We're on the top third, something like that, of page 10, and our choir will lead us in Tzrichim Anachnu, which is number 6 in the hymnal section. If you are not familiar with the words, you are probably familiar with the tune of Avinu Malkeinu, same tune, not the Barbra Streisand one, the other one.
remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. We're on the top of page 11. All people try and fail. The wise learn to forgive and try again. We can be too slow to forgive others. We are long to remember injuries and short to forget assistance.
Anger and memory have their place, and forgiveness does not require forgetting. We forgive by choosing not to avenge, by being open to second chances. Forgiving others brings us peace.
We can be too quick to forgive ourselves. We celebrate our successes and quickly explain away our failures. Dwelling on our shortfalls is not healthy, but neither is whitewashing them. Self-forgiveness requires honesty about the sides of ourselves we would rather not face.
Forgiving ourselves brings us peace.
Let us pause for a moment of true forgiveness. Let us forgive others, and let us forgive ourselves. Hopefully you have with you the 3-page supplement for today's service. The first page of that supplement has printed on it what is titled the Ahavnu Vidui. Ahavnu means we have loved, and so its Hebrew title translates to a we have loved confessional. We've read through a number of confessional style texts today, and of course admitting to our faults and misdeeds is part of Yom Kippur. But it's easy to forget in all of the what I did wrong language that Yom Kippur is also about what we can do right. The point of Yom Kippur is not I'm bad. The point of Yom Kippur is I've made mistakes and I have the power to avoid those mistakes and be a better version of myself in the future. Acknowledging that we have done good in the past is almost necessary on Yom Kippur so that we can balance out the picture we hold of ourselves. So we'll join together in the Ahavnu Vidui, this positive confessional penned by Rabbi Avi Weiss. We'll read responsively. You'll be relieved to know that I'll read the Hebrew, and as a community, we'll read the English line immediately after. I promise this will make sense. Ahavnu, we have loved. Beirachnu, we have blessed. Gadalnu, we have grown. Dibarnu yofi, we have spoken positively. He'elinu, we have raised up. V'chasnu, we have shown compassion. Zeraznu, we have acted enthusiastically. Chamalnu, we have been empathetic. Tipachnu emet, we have cultivated truth. Yatznu tov, we have given good advice. Kibadnu, we have respected. Lamadnu, we have learned. Machalnu, we have forgiven. Nichamnu, we have comforted. Salalnu, we have been created. Orarnu, we have stirred. Pa'alnu, we have been spiritual activists. Tzadaknu, we have been just. Kivinu l'shalom, we have longed for peace. Richamnu, we have been merciful. Shakadnu, we have given full effort. Tamachnu, we have supported. Taramnu, we have contributed. Tikanu, we have prepared. Thank you, Logan, for co-leading our service today. If you were looking at the pages, you perhaps noticed that there's a lot of stuff in alphabetical order in the confessionals. If you don't know the Hebrew alphabet, we just were in alphabetical order here too. You don't have to know the Hebrew alphabet to be here, right? What are we doing? What's the idea here? The high holidays have this tradition of piyutim, of liturgical poetry. And liturgical poems very often are marked by this kind of alphabetical order thing that you're seeing, right? We call it an acrostic, I know. The reason for that is really entirely artistic. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to write that way. But there's something interesting to it as well to think about, which is it means that when you read through it, there's an order. There's not a lot in our lives that you can really truly say there's an order to. We impose order. We impose order with acrostics, and we impose order with our schedules. So, the thing to do during the high holidays is this, among the many things you could be doing. Learning to blow shofar, asking yourself why you're here today. Think about how you bring order to your world, because we all have to do that. And ask yourself, am I really in charge here? Leaving you with that to worry about, I'd like to invite up today's speaker, Joel Narenberg, who will speak on our theme for this year's High Holiday service, Why Am I Here? Why Are We Here?
So our theme this year, Why Are We Here? As I've been considering this theme, I felt focused on two particular ways to interpret the question. One, maybe more obviously, what are we as a community doing here in this day by gathering for this observance? And second, more broadly, what are we humans doing here? How did we come to create things like this ancient ritual we're taking part of, or this very modern space that we're doing it in? And I think that the answers to these questions have a lot to do with each other, actually. The second answer first. Not long ago, my family read the book Unstoppable Us by author Yuval Noah Harari, which is a children's version of his prior title called Sapiens. Harari describes a key moment in human evolution called the cognitive revolution, which took place on Earth about 70,000 years ago. Before this, humans were one of many species of intelligent apes, sharing the Earth with creatures like Neanderthals and other hominins. Compared to most animals, all of these early humans were skilled hunters and gatherers and toolmakers. They had high intelligence and social structures and communication. They lived together in small bands of individuals who knew each other personally. The cognitive revolution was our ancestors' ability to create and believe in stories. We Homo sapiens could imagine and share abstract ideas, concepts like morality, traditions, spirits, gods, and eventually laws, nations, currencies, etc. Other species of proto-humans, such as Neanderthals, had similar levels of intelligence, but archaeological evidence shows that their efforts were primarily practical and immediate. They were focused on food and survival and in direct interactions with their tribe. Homo sapiens' use of abstract concepts let us work together in much larger groups because we could coordinate with people we didn't personally know or trust. We could interact with those people, those strangers, by understanding our role in a story that we all shared together. These beliefs let us move from small tribes to larger societies and eventually civilizations. And you can think of modern stories that we use today, stories like banking or soccer or passports, and you can understand how these stories enable massive groups to work and play and achieve goals together. But it's also easy to see that our species use this power in many negative ways too. Since ancient times, we have shared stories that justified violence and that promoted the subjugation of other humans. In modern times, we also use our power to squander and pollute Earth's resources. And as the book title, Unstoppable Us, suggests, there's no greater power on Earth to rein us in. When things go bad, we humans have to stop ourselves. So it's a good thing that this evolutionary leap, which allowed us to thrive as a species, also gave rise to something else profound, the capacity for introspection. The stories we tell don't just organize our society, they also help us make sense of our place in the world. They invite us to ask, who are we? Why do we do the things that we do? These are questions at the heart of human experience, and they're what brings us here today to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur serves as a powerful reminder of our collective need for reflection and correction. Traditional Judaism framed this as a time to atone before God, and we humanists view it as a time for deep self-examination. We ask ourselves, how can I be better? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world? These questions are not just personal, they tap into the same shared human capacity to reflect, to evaluate, to strive for improvement. We want to look at the bigger picture and try to adjust it. Because the thing is, the stories that we tell that make up our civilization are not permanent or immutable. They change and shift all the time in response to social trends or technological advances. And each of us has the opportunity to be an actor, to bend the shape of the stories that touch our lives. How can we impact stories of great importance to us, stories like inequality, or voter suppression, or nationalism, or climate change? We can choose. So why are we here today on Yom Kippur? Evolution gave us our unique ability to cooperate through shared beliefs and to participate in this ancient ritual that we're doing here today of reflection and correction. And we're also here to find meaning and purpose for ourselves. Yom Kippur invites us to pause and consider the stories that we tell about ourselves, about who we are, and about what matters. To ask, what contribution are we making, and what impact do we intend to have? So let's continue to tell stories here. Let's tell stories that unite us and challenge us and guide us in making a more just and compassionate and connected world. Thank you.
We are going to continue to tell stories. In particular, we're going to be talking about our past. We call the section of our service that we're starting Remembering Our Past, but it is really, and really probably should be called, our memorial service for Yom Kippur Day. I mentioned last night an article by Rabbi Dr. Elliot Cosgrove, who, in addressing the October 7th attack, states that traditional Jewish mourning rituals aren't enough to help us deal with the grief of the attacks, or really with grief in general, because grief is ongoing and ritual happens in short bursts. Coincidentally, the New York Times Weekly Health email for this week is also about mourning. The lead item in that email is about talking to people who are bereaved. Wisely, of course, the article tells readers not to attempt consolation by saying that there is a reason for everything. Perhaps surprisingly, though perhaps not, people have reported in recent studies that what provided them the most comfort was not speaking with friends or family or counselors or therapists or clergy. They derived the greatest comfort from their pets. It's hard to talk about death and loss, and of course it is, because it means acknowledging that we ourselves have limited lifespans. But we can't avoid talking about death, however comforting silence might be. So let's talk for a moment about talking about death. If we don't know when we will die, and we don't know what death is like ourselves, what can we say? One of the things we can talk about is memory, and specifically what memories we want to pass on to others. We don't always think about it, but this too is part of talking about death. In our absence, with our silence, what do we leave behind? On Yom Kippur in 1972, Rabbi Stanley Garfien of Temple Israel, then the only synagogue in Tallahassee, Florida, stood at the pulpit and read aloud his ethical will. Judaism has a long history of producing these ethical wills. In the medieval period, many were written in Hebrew and adopted the forms and meter of Arabic poetry. Others were philosophical treatises, and some include the sorts of things we'd associate with Jewish guilt, including one father complaining in his will that his son, who would go on to translate Maimonides' work from Arabic to Hebrew, was neglecting both his Arabic and his Hebrew studies. Much as I admire Rabbi Garfien, whose influence reached me at least indirectly as a student of several members of his congregation when I was in college, I'm not going to read an ethical will today. I am going to encourage you to think about what you would say in an ethical will. What are the lessons you want to leave behind? As we begin our memorial service, I'd like to invite up our next reader, Laura Narenberg, and as you might have guessed, Joel and Laura are part of a pair. And we are on the top of page 12.
You belong to the universe, and you will be reclaimed
By its constant, ever-changing heart.
Your wise body and your spacious mind.
When you are joyful or not,
Whether you are ready or not,
even as you turn away to be buffeted,
and set aloft a twig in the wind.
we have several texts here that are titled Kaddish. This is the first one. This is not one of the ones I'm going to make you stand for, I know. High holidays are supposed to be a lot of sitting and standing calisthenics. We'll get there. Look around us. Search above us, below, behind. We stand in a great web of being joined together.
Let us praise. Let us love the life we are lent, passing through us in the body of Israel and our own bodies.
Let's say Amen. Time flows through us like water. The past and the dead speak through us. We breathe out our children's children. Blessing.
Blessed is the earth from which we grow. Blessed is the life we are lent. Blessed are the ones who teach us. Blessed is the word that cannot say the story, that shines through us and remains to shine, flowing past distant suns on the way to forever.
Let's say Amen. Blessed is light, blessed is darkness, but blessed above all else is peace, which bears the fruits of knowledge on strong branches. Let's say Amen.
Peace that bears joy into the world, peace that enables love, peace over Israel everywhere. Blessed and holy is peace.
Let's say Amen. There will be a song here. It will not be Eufen Pripacek. But before we do the song, you've likely noticed that across the back wall of the room, there are several candles, several tables with a number of candles. They are intended for your use as memorial candles. While we cannot see or speak with those whose losses we grieve, we can still keep some of their light alive and bring it into the room with us today by lighting these candles. As we prepare to light memorial candles, I invite you to read and consider the two entries in the Yom Kippur supplement labeled as a memorial kavanah, which appear on pages 2 and 3. Kavanah means intention or preparation in Hebrew, and the words of a kavanah like these can lend us additional focus and purpose as we go about the task of bringing some of the light of memory to our service today. You will also have noticed that there are a fair number of you in the room today, and that the room is divided into convenient wedges. Therefore, Those who are in this wedge, all the way stage right. This is stage left. All the way stage left. Right, left. Please take this opportunity to head to the back and light memorial candles for those whom you miss. If you're looking for a convenient tip for lighting those matches, because sometimes they break, once you have one lit candle, stick the match in the lit candle. You don't have to strike on the box anymore. It's much faster. I broke several matches last night trying it. And once a sufficient number of people have kind of cleared the way back there, we'll have the next section come up. But just a few minutes. Okay, if this wedge would like to head up, you can. And remember, there are 3 tables across the back. One just happens to be on the other side of the room. You can use any of them. Okay, this large middle wedge here. And then this last wedge, if you'd like to light candles. As we wrap up our candle lighting, the choir will join us with number 13 in our hymnal section, We Remember Them. I know it says Eufen Pripyatchik on your page. Some other day we can talk about the historically inaccurate sentimentality that is Eufen Pripyatchik.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember.
In your supplement, you'll find a poem titled Illusion. Illusion is one of the many poems written in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks last year, and while its roots are in those attacks, the disjunction it speaks of between what changes and what stays the same reflects many of our experiences when we are bereaved. And so before we read our Kaddish, please join me in reading aloud together that poem, Illusion. Amazing how everything looks unchanged, even when nothing remains the same. We're on the bottom of page 13. I ask you to please rise for our Kaddish. Nit Gadal v'nit Kadash Baruach Ha'adam. Let us enhance and exalt ourselves in the spirit of humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us each in our own way take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth.
May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May healing and peace permeate and comfort all of Israel and all those who dwell on earth.
And let us say, Kain Yehi, may it be so. You may be seated. Once upon a time, Social Security was the third rail of American politics. Politicians who touched Social Security would, very quickly, become retired politicians. For many doing Jewish communal work in synagogues and elsewhere, the third rail of American Jewish life is Israel. And yet, what can we do at this moment but touch the third rail? As you know, this week marked the first anniversary of the October 7th attacks by Hamas against Israeli civilians within the borders of the State of Israel. It has been characterized as the deadliest day for Jews worldwide since World War II. It also began a now year-long military reprisal against Hamas that has threatened time and again to spread into a region-wide conflict as rockets fired from Gaza and southern Lebanon have fallen with regularity within Israel, joined on occasion by ballistic missile attacks from Iran, accompanied by increasing military action by Israel outside of its borders and outside of Gaza and the West Bank. What is there we can possibly say today that hasn't already been said? Probably very little, and I'm certain virtually none of what hasn't yet been said is something I will say today. There is nothing I can say about the enormity of the suffering that hasn't already been said. Suffering by Israelis, more than 1,200 of whom were killed in the initial attack, with 250 more taken hostage. Just over 100 hostages remain in captivity, with 117 hostages having been returned alive. More than 300 Israeli soldiers have been killed since October 7th, 2023, and there's nothing I can say about any of this, about their suffering and the suffering of their families and friends, that will change anything. There is nothing I can say about the tens of thousands of Gazans killed during the conflict or the thousands of children that will change anything. We can debate who's innocent and who's not until we're blue in the face, and we can debate the validity of the counts from the Gazan health authorities. We can debate the validity of the Israeli government's counts, which claim more than 16,000 Hamas members killed. And none of that will change anything either. Tens of thousands of people are dead in the wake of the October 7th attacks. Some were Israelis, some were Palestinians, and some, lest we forget, were foreign workers from countries like Thailand. The book of Ecclesiastes says over and over again, Havel Havelim, Hakol Havel, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And what the author means is not that people are vapid, but that words lack meaning. Events lack meaning. Nothing changes simply by speaking, and often nothing changes through action. It is vanity to think that what we say in this room today changes much of anything outside it, and if we're honest, we struggle in the face of a thing we've become unaccustomed to in our world. We are, about so many things, powerless. Perhaps that's some of why we find ourselves so bitterly divided on Israel and Palestine, because at bottom, in many ways, we're powerless. We forget that. We drive cars, we spend money, we go to work, we manipulate our environments, and we so lose track of the fact that really, there's a vast range of things we don't control, far more than we do. When we do remember that we're largely powerless to make immediate changes that fix the biggest problems in the world, we are relatively quick to forget again. It turns out that fighting about a thing helps us forget that we can't do anything about it. Ecclesiastes also says there's nothing new under the sun, and being fated to forget is part of the human condition. But so is being doomed to remember, and in this too, there's really not anything new under the sun. Remembering isn't only a matter of fate, however. It is also a matter of imperative. We will remember, but more than that, we must remember. We must remember that we're often powerless, but more than that, we must remember that over which we lack power. We must remember because we would be remiss to mark Yom Kippur's memorial service without mentioning the tragedies we know but can in our daily lives push to the side. We know, or we think we know, other imperatives too. We know, or at least we think we know, that Jewish tradition tells us that one life is as valuable as all the world's lives. That's not actually what the tradition has to say, it's a paraphrase. And in explaining to ourselves the last year of escalating violence, we should note the difference. What is, when it comes to the value of human life in Jewish tradition, is often not what we remember. And as ever, context matters. There is the made-for-bumper sticker statement we remember, made famous by the movie Schindler's List, in which Itzhak Stern, Oskar Schindler's bookkeeper, tells Schindler that whoever saves one life saves the world entire. That is not what the tradition actually conveys. It's a paraphrase of another statement. That other statement is from the Talmud, in explaining why capital cases are different from cases that would see defendants punished by fines or corporal punishment. The Talmud discusses the story of Cain and Abel, and it then says, "Thus Adam was created alone in order to teach you that as to someone who destroys a single soul from Israel, Scripture counts them as though they destroyed a full world. And as to anyone who preserves a single soul from Israel, Scripture counts them as though they preserved a full world." That isn't the statement we thought we knew. It's not the statement we remembered, or at least it's not the one we wanted to remember. The theme for our high holidays this year has been, why am I here? Why are we here? And we've heard messages about community and possibility and loss and consolation and hope. Those are all reasons we're here. The reasons Mahar is here and the reasons I am here. But there's still another reason we are here, another reason that I am here too. It appears in the email signature of the person who I consider to be my rabbi, and it's just 2 words. Truth matters. Truth matters, and the truth of the last year is bitter and brutal for Israelis and for Jews in the worldwide diaspora, for Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank and in the worldwide diaspora, for Lebanese people in the line of fire and in the worldwide diaspora. The truth is bitter and brutal because as much as any of us might lament the massive loss of life since the October 7th attacks, the moral message of the war waged by the Israeli government is rooted in what the Talmud actually says about saving the entire world. What matters to the Israeli government is ultimately the value of Israeli Jewish lives, and even then, those lives seem to matter as much as a reason for vengeance as they do for preserving life. The Israeli government, a right-wing government dominated by religious parties and far-right political factions, is, however much we might be disturbed by the notion, living its values. Because while we often forget the Israel part of the Talmud's statement equating one life to the entire world, I assure you the far right and religious parties have not forgotten. At the same time, it's not as though Hamas's leaders have set aside their desired final result, the violent end of the state of Israel to be accomplished by killing its Jewish citizens. We sometimes use the phrase the simple truth as though truth is always or ever simple. There is nothing simple about any of this, except we who watch from afar are left to grieve, and there is nothing simple about grief. So what do we do about October 7th and about Gaza and about Lebanon and about the West Bank? Nothing we say will resolve anything. Nothing we can say about who's right or wrong is likely to persuade those who disagree with us. So what? The challenge is to sit in our grief, to feel it, to examine it. Whom do we grieve for the most? Why? What does the why tell you about you and about others? Yom Kippur is ironically a moment almost entirely composed of words and not action. There is nothing to do today that changes anything. And there's probably nothing to do tomorrow that will change anything either. But that's not the point of Yom Kippur, and it's not the point of our Yom Kippur memorial service either. We don't change things on Yom Kippur. We change ourselves. We experience grief for what we've done, for what others have done. We acknowledge our failings. We acknowledge our connections to others who have also profoundly failed. And we think about what that means for the future. There's nothing else to do today except mourn. And today, this week, at this moment, mourning the difficulty of the truth of death and loss and the unresolvable is ultimately why we are here. We are approaching the end of our memorial service, and so I'd like to invite the choir up to sing Yesh Kohavim, which is number 15 in our hymnal section. We're starting the last part of our service, believing in our future, and so I'd like to invite up our fourth and final readers, Adam and Eric Nam. And we are on the bottom half of page 14. There is a time in every generation when some Jews are afraid, when some Jews are threatened, when some Jews are attacked because they are Jews.
That's not our only story. There are stories of survival, stories of success, stories of new beginnings, stories of laying down new roots.
Because another generation becomes the future. I do not stand up and ask for a leap of faith to the unknown, to the unknowable, to believe with me in anything but one undeniable fact.
The future is coming, and we must leap into it.
Carrying our jars of fallen tears, our pockets filled with Hebrew letters, and our hope as the new day dawns.
One day, Rabbi Yochanan was on a journey, and he noticed a man planting a carob tree. He asked him, "How long will it take for this tree to bear fruit?" 70 years, the man replied. He then asked him, "Are you sure you'll be alive in 70 years?" And the man replied, "I found the world ready with previously planted carob trees. As my forefathers planted them for me, I will plant them for my children."
Today we stop to consider what is growing in the worship of our lives. What do we plant?
Today we stop to consider the impact of our lives on future generations, knowing that in time we too will be ancestors.
Today I stand back and survey my land. Today I tend to the soil of my life. Today I plant so that generations to come can reap. Our choir will lead us in Naaseh Shalom, which is number 8 in the hymnal section of your books.
We learn little from spoken rules and written advice. Words can inspire us, but rarely do they transform our lives. We learn from people, from the living example of living teachers, a father's integrity, a mother's warm encouragement, a famous leader's determination.
People enter our lives and guide us by what they do, not by what they say. They embody the ideal and make it real enough for us to understand.
Memory keeps alive the example of great men and women who taught us through action. It also preserves the behavior of more modest guides who touched our lives in simpler ways.
We too shall be examples in the future world that is never visited. We are teaching others for a tomorrow that is beyond our grasp. Our actions will move others long after our words are forgotten.
We are the children of love. We are the heirs of generous hope. Parents and peers, family and friends are forever joined to us by bonds of affection and mutual experience.
The pain of separation never completely disappears, nor does the fond memory of their lives. They are constantly with us, even when we do not think of them. Their influence brings us here today, that we may honor them by sharing our memories silently as a community of caring friends. We just sang Na'aseh Shalom, and I know that some people ended up singing Ha'olam, and some people ended up singing Yisrael, and some people ended up singing both, and some people weren't really sure which one to sing. Both because, look, the text on the sheet is kind of small, but also because, which one do you sing? Part of making peace is accepting that we might be right, but that insisting on being right is sometimes beside the point. Please join me in reading the poem, The Place Where We Are Right, which is on the top of the second page of your supplement. From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard, but doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole, a cloud, and a whisper we heard in the place where the ruined house once stood. I'd like to invite up Mahar's President Will David to extend some greetings, make some announcements, and some acknowledgments.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Jeremy Cradell for leading the service, for his meaningful remarks, and for his thoughtful leadership. I'd like to thank the choir, Misha Clive, Greg Riza, Joanna Pratt, Joyce Rosenthal, Mahal Zelenin, Harry Appleman on piano, our speaker, Joel Nierenberg, our readers, Josh Rogan, Logan Elliott, Laura Nuremberg, Adam Nam, and Eric Nam, our child care coordinator, Sharon Rosenberg, our greeters, Kathy Bergman, Julie Lewis, Akiva Lieberman, our children's family service leader, Rahel Hanadari, pianist, Adam Nam, shofar blowers, Jameson Mike and Solomon Sandler. Our shofar blower in this service, Dan Tubachman. Check-in, Emily Blake, Barry and Elaine Dancis. In charge of security, Elaine Dancis, Emily Blake, Dunya Hecht. Thank you for all those who brought in cookies for the shepherd's table. Thanks to our Mahar administrator, Jackie Krotman. And as always, we couldn't pull this off without Nadine Wetstein, who's coordinated everything for High Holiday services. On October 20, we'll celebrate Sukkot at 10 a.m. at Cabin John Regional Park, which we'll be holding in conjunction with our partners at Beth High and Kehila Hadashah. Please register using the Sign Up Genius that has been sent out on the listserv and in the weekly update. Details on our services and events, including some very interesting adult education speakers, a Stop the Bleed training on November 17th, are all in the weekly updates sent out via Jackie every Thursday to everyone on the Mahar listserv. If you're not receiving these, please let Jackie know. You can reach her at administrator@mahar.org. It is very good to see so many people here and online. Our congregation is growing. If you're new to Mahar or checking Mahar out, welcome. I'd love to talk to you. I'm available after the service. You can also reach me at president@mahar.org. Jeremy is available after the service. You can always reach him at rabbi@mahar.org. If you're not new to Mahar, but we haven't met or really gotten a chance to talk, I would like to. For those of you who were here at Rosh Hashanah, you know why I'm here. I'd really like to know why you're here. I'd like to learn more about how this community fits into your life. Importantly, what enhancements would you like to see from Mahar, be it activities or otherwise, that could help make Mahar a more meaningful part of your life, that could add to the reasons, why are you, why will you be here? Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom.
To be completely transparent, one of the things that you can say you'd like in the future are less depressing Yom Kippur sermons. But such are the times. I'd like to invite up our Baal Tekiah, Dan Tabachman. We are on page 17, and we're getting ready to hear the shofar again. There's a couple of songs in the middle, but we're getting there.
Now is the time to do what we need to do. Now is the time to think about our lives, to think about our behavior, to think about the people we admire and love.
Now is the time to gather our strength, to deepen our understanding, to discover our power. Now is the time to choose first things first, to place our family, our education, and our health above mere fun and play.
Now is the time to become the masters of our lives and to rule our feelings. Now is the time to discover our excuses and to take responsibility for all that we do.
Let us say together, we will be honest about our behavior. We will protect our family. We will make learning important. We will guard our health. We will control our feelings. We will take responsibility for all that we do. As we get set up for our final blow of the shofar, our choir will lead us in singing Aniva Atah, which is number 26 in our hymnal section. Tekiah Gedolah. We have one last song. I'm not 100% sure if it's in the hymnal section, but those of you who know Od Yavo Shalom will know the words. There's always la la la, yai die die, bye bye bye. If it is in your hymnal section, it's number 31.
Yes, because it's not on a page, and I'm like, did we practice? Oh, yeah, we did.
Where do we start? What note are we coming on? It's not the note that's completed in the score.